As long as those conversations continue to be productive, we're going to continue to have them.
That is Josh Earnest being asked about the deadline. The deadline for the Iranian talks. It's come and gone like 3 times now. Is it really a deadline? Well, apparently it's not a deadline because we're going to continue to have these talks. A great day for us to have KT McFarland, Fox News national security analyst, standing by. Good morning to you, KT.
Good morning.
All right, so we keep having these negotiations, and the Iranians keep dragging it out and dragging it out and dragging it out. And we in the United States keep saying, okay, well, we're close, so let's just go a little longer. At some point, do you lose power in a negotiating situation when you're not ready to walk away?
Yeah, I mean, look, Obama and Kerry got played. It's April Fool's Day, and it's not a joke. They've gotten totally played. And this is standard operating procedure when you get down to the sort of final strokes of an agreement that's a difficult agreement with a tough adversary. I mean, Kissinger had the same thing in the Vietnam peace talks where they thought they had a deal. They go to the table to sign, and the Vietnamese say, well, we got a few more things.
And Kissinger walked away, didn't he?
Kissinger walked away.
And Kissinger said, okay, look, we're going to start bombing, or Nixon said, we're going to start bombing if you don't come back to the table.
And they were back within 2 weeks and signed a deal.
As soon as the bombing started, they got back. So, I mean, you have to be tough with these people.
Well, and also Reagan had the same thing with Gorbachev.
Right.
They thought they had a deal, and Gorbachev said, well, one more little thing about your Star Wars system. So Reagan walked away. At the end, not only did we get that deal, we saw the collapse of the Soviet Union. So you've got to be willing to walk away. But even then, it's almost, this deal, it's too late for this deal. I mean, the deal, why did we even get into this process? Because we wanted to stop Iran's nuclear weapons program, and we wanted to prevent a nuclear arms race in the Middle East. This deal does neither. All it does at this point, and the details now are almost irrelevant, it doesn't stop Iran's nuclear weapons program. All it does is say, okay, unplug it from the wall for a little while. Actually, only unplug some of it from the wall for a little while. You don't really get adequate inspections, and we pinky swear that we're not going to change our minds and plug it back in the wall to develop nuclear weapons. And then, by the way, no penalties in case we do change our mind. I mean, what deal is that? On the other hand, the neocons are saying, well, now it's time to stop Iran's bomb, you got to bomb Iran. But these are the same guys who said the Iraq war would be cheap and sweet and short. And, I don't think they have a lot of credibility. So I look at this and say, time to get tough economically. We have them where we want them economically with the sanctions. Continue to squeeze their economy, and tear down the cyber wall that separates their very young, literate population from the rest of the world. Let them decide if they want to be ruled by a bunch of 80-year-old mullahs living in some previous century. So go on steroids, try to tear down the cyber wall, press their economy even further, and then let the Iranians take their own future into their hands. Because the Iranians have decided that they're going to get a bomb no matter what, I think, and the administration is basically letting them. So any deal that Obama will get will be one that we really shouldn't sign.
But something like that is only going to happen if the president signs legislation coming out of the Congress, the Senate, and he said he won't do that. He's not interested in any new sanctions regime.
Yeah, and the problem is that Obama, Obama may get his deal, and he may think this is a historic trip to Iran. It's going to be like Nixon going to China, but this deal isn't going to last.
Yeah.
Iran is now going to become the dominant economic, political, and military power in the region. It's going to spur an arms race. In fact, the other countries in the region, they don't believe what Obama says. They've already, in the last month, taken steps to develop their own nuclear programs. So as you look at the Middle East, which is headed for a 30-year Shiite-Sunni civil war, whether it's in Iraq and Iran, whether it's Saudi Arabia and Iran, whether it's in Syria, whether it's in North Africa, and into that mix, you're going to potentially throw nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
That's not Nixon going to China. That's Neville Chamberlain going to Munich.
Well, and while you paint that picture of what the future of the Middle East might look like, obviously, as always, Egypt looms large. And I know you care very deeply about what's going on in Egypt. I'd love for you to reflect on what happened kind of late yesterday without much fanfare. President Obama removed the weapons freeze against Egypt that he's had in place since that government took over. Is that a significant step?
It's a hugely significant step if it's true. In the past, the administration, Secretary Kerry, have said, we don't really have a weapons ban. we're delivering the stuff. And yet you go to Egypt, and the military guys there say, we never got anything.
Yeah.
So let's see if it's true. But secondly, and more importantly, for 15 years, we, the West, have been screaming and jumping up and down saying, where are the moderate Muslims? Why don't they stand up and fight for themselves? Why don't they reform their religion? Why don't they stand up to violent radical Islam? And you finally have somebody doing it. The Egyptians are finally doing it. They're talking about reforming their religion. They're taking up arms against radical Islam. And the administration should go to those groups and say, how can we help? Not American boots on the ground, but we will give you everything you need to take the fight to the enemy. How do we help you? And maybe we're starting to wake up to that, but let's just see what the administration is really about.
Meanwhile, Iraqi forces have apparently, have they really taken back Tikrit?
Well, this war is going to go back and forth. This is going to be like all those battles in Vietnam that nobody can remember now. But the real fight in Iraq is not between the Iraqi military and ISIS. The real fight in Iraq is Shiite-Sunni. It's the Sunnis versus the Iranians. It's the Iraqis and what's left of the Sunni Iraqi military and the Iranians. One of the stories that I thought was the most upsetting came in the media a couple of days ago, where it said that one of the reasons the Obama administration is so eager not to offend Iran in the nuclear talks is because they're worried that the Iranian forces that are fighting alongside the American forces in Iraq might turn on the Americans. That's blackmail.
Yeah, and it's so strange that the United States is providing air support for Iraqi forces that are being aided by Iranians. It's bizarre.
But however, it's making some bizarre bedfellows. As Richard Engel reported yesterday on NBC News, suddenly Israel and Saudi Arabia and Jordan are sort of working together because they have a common enemy. Could this actually lead to something positive?
This is the best development in years, and maybe it does lead to something. But what it does tell us is, does the United States want to be in the middle of any of these civil wars?
Yeah.
We have been in the middle of these civil wars for 30 years. Why? Because we've needed their oil. We don't need their oil anymore. Let them fight it out, hope the good guys win, prevent terrorists from coming to the United States, help Israel and our allies in the region defend themselves, but it's really their fight.
All right, KT McFarland.
Always a pleasure, KT.
Thank you, KT. Always good to have you.